My sister bullied me since childhood and lied about everything, so I secretly exposed her fake college degree and destroyed her engagement right before everyone. I, 27F, have an older sister named Sheila, and I absolutely despise her. She's the reason I even came to Reddit today to figure out if what I've decided is right or wrong. Sheila is the eldest in our family. She wasn't a planned child. Our parents had her while they were still in college. Because of that, she spent her first couple of years mostly with our grandparents, who stepped in to help raise her while our parents focused on finishing their studies. They visited her as often as they could while juggling school and work. Once they finally graduated, our parents got married, and that's when Sheila moved in with them permanently. I guess that's why she's always been overly attached and constantly seeks their attention. For about 3 years, Sheila was the center of their world until Mom got pregnant with me. From the second I was born, Sheila made it clear she couldn't stand me. Some of my earliest memories involve her pushing me away when I tried to crawl toward her, or yanking my hair until I screamed in pain. Our parents would always tell me it was just normal sibling behavior, that older siblings often need time to adjust. But Sheila never did. If anything, she got worse. As a kid, she'd scream at me whenever I tried to talk to her. She locked me in rooms multiple times just to stop me from going to our parents. I'd pound on the doors or cry until one of them came to let me out. Sometimes she would slap me or even kick me if I annoyed her at that age. I didn't realize how serious all this was. Our parents never treated it as a big deal. So I figured maybe one day she'd grow out of it. I held on to the hope that my big sister might finally accept me. But one moment changed everything. It happened one afternoon when Dad was at work and Mom was taking a nap. Sheila asked if I wanted to play ball with her. Being taller, she had the upper hand, but instead of playing fairly, she kept throwing the ball directly at my face. I kept begging her to stop, but she just grinned and kept doing it. Eventually, the ball hit me so hard that I felt a warm trickle running down my face. My nose was bleeding, and the pain was sharp and overwhelming. Tears filled my eyes as I tried to head back inside. My shirt now stained with blood, but Sheila ran after me and blocked my way. She told me I couldn't tell our parents the truth, and forced me to make up a lie about falling face first on the ground. Even though I was in pain, she wouldn't let me go to Mom until I agreed to lie. So I did. Luckily, Dad had installed security cameras all around the house, and he checked the footage. Both of them were horrified when they saw how Sheila had been deliberately targeting me with the ball. Dad was furious and yelled at her, but Mom tried to defend her, saying maybe it was just a one-time mistake. She even tried to calmly talk to Sheila to understand why she would do something like this. Sheila didn't say much. She just glared at me the whole time, clearly angry that she'd been caught. She kept denying everything, and eventually our parents dropped it, hoping she would change. But I knew better. After that, her bullying got even worse. She'd try to slam the car door on my fingers whenever the opportunity came up. She'd shove me in the school hallways when there were no teachers around. If I was sitting with friends, she'd show up at lunch and loudly tell them not to hang out with a stinky backstabber like me. She stole my lunchbox, took my lunch money, left me hungry. I tried to tell Mom. She tried the whole gentle parenting approach, but it didn't work. Sheila never stopped. When I turned 9, I finally convinced my parents to throw me an anime-themed birthday party, something I had begged for over and over. They finally agreed, and I was thrilled. But Sheila was relentless. She mocked me constantly, calling me a tomboy and scoffing at everything I enjoyed. She kept insisting that no one would show up to my party, but to her shock and my own, the exact opposite happened. I invited my classmates, and word spread quickly among those who shared my love for anime. Soon, boys and girls alike were genuinely excited to come. When the day finally arrived, Every guest showed up dressed as their favorite anime character. The party was a total hit. My parents, who had always seen me as quiet and shy mostly because of Sheila's constant torment, were stunned to see how confident and well-liked I was around my classmates. Sheila spent the whole evening sulking around the house. She even refused to sing happy birthday with everyone when it was time to cut the cake. Honestly, I didn't care. For once, I was the one in the spotlight. And it felt amazing not to have my sister ruin it. As I got older, I started feeling more secure in myself. I began standing up to Sheila and her non-stop bullying. I was done staying silent. Instead of just taking her insults about how I looked, I began clapping back. I'd tease her right back, making fun of her awful fashion choices. Whenever she crossed the line, I'd bring it up to Dad, knowing he wouldn't let it slide. Unlike Mom, who always tried the soft approach, Dad was firm with Sheila and made her answer for her behavior. She started to hate me even more because of it, but I didn't care anymore. She knew I wasn't going to be pushed around again. When Sheila finished high school, she had no real plans to go to college. She told our parents she wanted to take a gap year, which caused a lot of tension, especially with Dad, who wanted her to at least get a degree first. He even told her she could travel during semester breaks if she really wanted to see the world. But Sheila was stubborn. Eventually, our parents gave in, though not happily. That gap year ended up turning into several years. In the beginning, Mom and Dad paid for her travels. She backpacked around Europe and had the time of her life. But when the year was over and Dad brought up college again, Sheila completely ignored him. So Dad laid down the law. He told her she was on her own and that he wouldn't fund any more trips. She tried to guilt Mom into backing her up, but Dad didn't budge this time. Later, she announced she wanted to be a digital nomad so she could travel while working. That plan flopped hard. Every job she looked at required at least a basic degree. Out of options, she ended up doing volunteer work, which only covered housing and the occasional meal. Our parents were clearly disappointed, though they didn't interfere. What bothered them most was that Sheila always whined about how tough her life was, but never took any steps to fix it. Meanwhile, I was the opposite. I loved school. Math and science came naturally to me, and my grades were excellent. Before even graduating, I got accepted into my dream university with a partial scholarship. My parents were overjoyed. Word of my success reached extended family, and some relatives even suggested that my parents throw a party to celebrate. Sheila didn't take that well at all. She kept calling Mom and complaining that they were favoring me. She claimed they were throwing the party just to rub my achievements in her face, and said I was mocking her just because she hadn't gone to college. To be honest, I didn't care if she came or not. If she still held so much resentment toward me, why even bother? Mom clearly missed her. Sheila hadn't been home in over 5 months, and Mom felt it would look bad if the oldest sibling didn't show up for my celebration. Sheila finally agreed to attend, but only after a lot of persuasion, and even then, she made it obvious she didn't want to be there. She showed up a few days before the party, but never once congratulated me, even after I greeted her kindly. The day of the party arrived. Our grandparents and relatives came with thoughtful gifts, and everyone seemed to be having a good time, but I couldn't ignore Sheila's drinking. She was going through glass after glass of wine without stopping. Dad noticed too, concerned. He stepped in and asked her to eat something instead of drinking more, but Sheila just yanked the glass from his hand and kept drinking. A few of our relatives exchanged worried glances. Later, our grandfather tapped his glass to get everyone's attention and offered a heartfelt toast. Everyone beamed with pride, not just for Sheila, but for me as well. Grandpa expressed how happy he was to see us each following our own path and doing what made us truly happy. He congratulated me on earning my scholarship and, to my delight, mentioned how excited he was to visit me at college. which brought a smile to everyone's face. Just then, Sheila snorted into her drink, interrupting his speech. Grandpa paused, and our parents exchanged uneasy glances as Sheila giggled and loudly blurted out that no one believed him. She claimed everyone was only there because of the golden child. My face flushed with embarrassment as her bitter words echoed through the room. Everyone turned to look. The truth was both of us knew her claims were complete nonsense. Our parents had always treated us with love and fairness. They never played favorites. In fact, if anything, Mom had always shared a deeper bond with Sheila. Being her firstborn, we were allowed to make our own life choices freely. Sheila was the one who chose not to go to college. And now, just because I had worked hard and earned a scholarship, she wanted to tear me down. Tears welled up in my eyes as she kept ranting about how everyone brought me gifts, while no one ever supported her dreams, especially when it came to money for her travels. She went on to say that our parents shouldn't have had 2 kids if they couldn't care for one properly. She even accused Dad of cutting her off financially. At that point, Dad stood up to stop her from making a bigger scene and planned to walk her out. But before he could get there, Gramp, usually calm and quiet, suddenly raised his voice. It was the first time I had ever heard him yell. He reminded Sheila just how hard our parents had worked to build their lives while raising her in college. He told her if they hadn't wanted her, they could have easily made a different choice. He scolded her for turning a joyful event into something toxic and said that if she felt jealous of her younger sister, that was her own personal problem and no one else could fix it but her. Sheila looked stunned. Shaken by his words, she ran out of the party in tears, with Mom following behind to try and comfort her. Later, our parents did everything they could to get her to talk and make peace, but she never did. She never apologized for what she said. Not long after, I moved out and into my college dorm. While I focused on settling into campus life and making new friends, Sheila stayed home with no direction. She spent her nights partying and drinking with random people from town. Dad begged her to find a part-time job and even helped her create a resume. He encouraged her to apply to different places, but Sheila never took it seriously. Even when she did apply, she rarely got called for interviews. I didn't know all the details at the time, since I was hundreds of miles away, but I could tell from phone calls that our parents were constantly worried about her. Then, one night, I was jolted awake by my phone ringing. My parents were calling me from the hospital. I panicked at first, thinking something had happened to them. But they quickly assured me they were okay. With Sheila, she had gotten into a car accident, apparently. She had been drinking and driving and crashed into someone's fence. Fortunately, no one was injured. Because of that, she wasn't arrested. But Dad had to cover all the repair costs. The insurance company refused to help since Sheila was under the influence. Dad was furious and, rightfully so. He told her he wanted her out of the house as soon as possible. Still, Sheila tried to act like the victim, saying she was struggling mentally and that it wasn't a big deal since no one got hurt. Dad gave her 2 choices: either start therapy, apply for jobs, and begin saving money while staying under their roof, or she could leave and live her life elsewhere because he was done. Sheila snapped back that he had no right to control her life, especially when he and Mom had never tried to control mine. Once again, Sheila brought up how she'd always felt like the one who was treated unfairly compared to me. She insisted that things had never been equal between us. But in the end, none of her arguments changed. The outcome: Dad kicked her out as soon as she was discharged from the hospital. She tried reaching out to our grandparents and relatives, asking if she could stay with them instead, but they were well aware of her recent behavior and didn't want to take on the responsibility, to my surprise. A few days later, she even called me and asked for money. I had a few $1,000s saved up from working part-time during high school, and even after everything she'd done to me, I couldn't stand the thought of her crashing on random couches. So I sent her what I could, hoping she'd make responsible choices and maybe just maybe it would help repair our relationship. But of course, she didn't. I saw her Snapchat story drinking, partying, laughing with friends. Instead of finding a place to live, she blew the money on booze and fun. I messaged her, hoping we could have a serious grown-up conversation. Instead, she blocked me. I was furious. She had used me. Again, that was the moment I finally accepted who she really was. If she wanted to keep being reckless and childish, then I had no reason to save her anymore. Sheila occasionally reached out to our parents whenever she needed cash, but even Mom had run out of patience by then. She'd ignore her calls, knowing exactly what the money would be used for. For the next 3 years, we barely heard from Sheila. Despite everything, both of our parents still missed her. They kept hoping she'd eventually figure things out and build a better life. Then, during my 4th year in college, I got a call from her out of nowhere. I hesitated before answering. It had been years. But I picked up, just in case it was serious. Surprisingly, she sounded upbeat. She asked how I was doing and what was new in my life. The most frustrating part of talking to Sheila is how casually she acts, like nothing ever happened, as if everything is magically forgiven. I awkwardly brought up the fact that she had blocked me for years. She brushed it off, saying she had forgiven me for the past and wanted a fresh start. I had no clue what I had done that needed forgiving, but before I could ask, she jumped into a story about meeting someone last year. When I asked who, she lit up, gushing about how he was the most amazing guy she'd ever met. She said she wanted me to meet him. She asked if I was free that weekend to come back to our hometown for dinner. Our parents could meet him too. Knowing better than to trust her easily, I told her I wasn't sure and would get back to her. But she kept insisting, saying it wouldn't feel like a true family reunion without me. She also called our parents, and they were shocked by how happy and energetic she sounded. We were all curious. So after talking to Mom and Dad, I decided to take the overnight bus back home that Friday so I could attend the lunch. When the day arrived, Sheila introduced us to her new boyfriend, Jack. They both looked genuinely happy and healthy. Sheila told us she was working at a marketing firm that paid her well. And that's where she met Jack. Their connection was obvious, and for once, I felt happy for her. But then, things took an odd turn. Jack started talking about how brilliant Sheila was and how lucky he felt to be with such a smart, successful woman. He mentioned how she had graduated from Berkeley, and that it had always been his dream to attend a school like that, though he never had the chance. Jack went on and on about how Sheila shared stories of her college years at Berkeley about her peers, her classes, and the people she met during those 4 years. He even said that if they ever got married and had kids, he'd want them to grow up just like Sheila. We all smiled politely. But it was painfully awkward, because we knew Sheila never went to college, let alone graduated from Berkeley. She avoided eye contact with all of us and quickly changed the subject to something else after lunch. Sheila left with Jack in such a hurry that she didn't even stop to hug any of us goodbye. It was obvious to both our parents and me that something wasn't right. Sheila had clearly lied to Jack about her education. And now she was eager to get away before the truth came out. Later that evening, she called us, begging us not to tell Jack the truth. Dad wasn't buying her excuses. He pressed her for details. And that's when the truth finally came out. Sheila had forged college transcripts so she could land a job. We were all stunned by the seriousness of her lie. She also admitted to Dad that she had kept other big things from Jack, like her car accident and her history of heavy drinking. She said she didn't want him to know that side of her, while we understood that it can be difficult to open up about personal struggles. We couldn't ignore how deeply dishonest it was to fake a degree and misrepresent her entire background. Both Mom and Dad told her that what she was doing was incredibly wrong, and if she truly loved Jack, she needed to come clean. He deserved to know the truth, but Sheila flat out refused. She told us to stay out of her relationship and insisted she could handle it. If Jack ever found out, though she was confident he never would, I wanted no part in her mess, so I stayed out of it and let our parents deal with her drama. Just 3 months later, Sheila called me again with big news. She and Jack were engaged. I asked if she thought things were moving a little fast, since they'd only been together for a year. Sheila just laughed and told me I wouldn't understand anything about engagements or marriage, because I hadn't met the right man yet, like she had. She wasn't wrong. So I congratulated her and wished her happiness. She then told me she wanted a small, intimate wedding and already had some ideas about how she wanted it to look. She went on to say that, as her sister, she expected me to handle the entire wedding planning because she didn't want to be stressed out. Curious, I asked if this meant I'd be her maid of honor. But she quickly informed me she'd already asked her coworkers to be her maid of honor and bridesmaids. When I asked about bridesmaids again, she said all those roles were already filled. Then she added, like it was a great honor that being her wedding planner was the most important role of all, and that we could begin planning right away. I was taken aback. Not only was she excluding me from her actual wedding party, she also expected me to handle the entire event, which I never even agreed to in the first place. I told her that her coworkers, who knew her better and spent more time with her, would probably be a better fit for helping with the planning. She immediately argued that her coworkers were all busy women with families and couldn't afford to take time out for this. She then said that since I was just a college student and not as busy as them, I should be grateful she was assigning me such a responsibility. Her logic honestly made me laugh, which is another classic example of her manipulative behavior. I firmly told her no. It was my final year in college, and I had too much on my plate already. Suggested she ask someone else to handle the full planning. She didn't take that well. She accused me of not being supportive and said that, as her family, she expected me to contribute by taking charge of her big day. I told her I didn't mind helping out here and there, but I couldn't possibly take on such a demanding role, not with school, work, and graduation looming. My refusal sparked a full-blown issue. Sheila immediately called our parents, begging them to convince me to do it. She complained that as a bride, it was humiliating for her to handle wedding tasks alone, especially when other brides had their families step up for them. Our parents tried to offer a compromise. They suggested maybe Sheila could pay me for my time, since wedding planning is no small task. I'd have to come up with a theme, organize the seating chart, contact caterers, and help her find the perfect venue while managing college responsibilities. But Sheila refused, telling our parents that no real sister would ever ask to be paid for such menial tasks, and that I was just being selfish, as always. She kept sending me message after message, but I ignored every one of them. Even our parents have now stepped away from the situation. They agree with my decision. So, Reddit. Am I wrong for refusing her demand? If you had a sister like Sheila, would you ever help plan her wedding, especially when she's never done a single thing for you, but expects you to drop everything for her? When I first shared this, I expected a handful of people to agree that Sheila was asking too much. But I ended up receiving hundreds of messages from strangers telling me that Sheila is a massive red flag, and many of you shared that you've also had toxic family members like her. I'm genuinely sorry if my story triggered painful memories for anyone. It sucks that so many of us have had to deal with people like this. But for the first time in my life, I actually feel validated. Having someone like Sheila in your life is exhausting. She really is a nightmare. A lot of you have urged me to tell Jack the truth to spare him from a future filled with lies and manipulation. And honestly, I agree. If I were Jack, I'd want to know if my partner had forged an entire college degree and hidden major details from their past. So, I've decided. The next time I see Jack, I'm going to tell him. I'll post another update when I do. In the meantime, Sheila hasn't stopped texting me over the past 2 days, still trying to force me to plan her wedding. I've kept politely declining, telling her I'd be happy to help, but only if she had a smaller, more manageable task for me. It's been a few weeks and everything has completely blown up. For those of you still following this, remember I said I'd tell Jack the truth before they got married. Some people suggested I reach out through social media, but I figured that would be awkward since we'd only spoken once. Instead, I wrote a note. In it, I detailed everything Sheila had done to me and how she had lied to him, especially about her education. My plan was to give him the note during their engagement party, which Sheila was throwing to celebrate with friends and family. I took a bus 6 hours from my college town and arrived at her place, exhausted and starving. But Sheila didn't even say hi properly. She stopped me at the door, told me I was late, grabbed my bags, and immediately started giving orders. Apparently, a few of her hired servers hadn't shown up, and because I'd previously agreed to help with a small task, she expected me to serve drinks to all the guests, without letting me change, freshen up, or greet our parents. She shoved me to the back where the other servers were getting organized. I was stunned. My parents looked just as surprised to see me walking around with trays of drinks. But I smiled at them, trying to reassure them that everything was fine. I didn't want them to worry. Ironically, this whole situation gave me the perfect window to quietly pass Jack the note. While Sheila was busy chatting with guests, I walked over to Jack with a drink. He thanked me warmly and said I didn't need to be serving anyone. That's when I slipped him the note and whispered that he should read it privately. As soon as he could, not even 15 minutes later, Jack came out of the bathroom looking visibly shaken. He walked straight over to Sheila and asked her right in front of everyone if she'd been lying to him all along. She looked confused at first, until he asked again, louder this time, whether it was true she'd never been to college. Her eyes went wide in panic. Guests around us looked on with confusion. As Jack turned to our parents for answers, he asked them directly, and Dad didn't hesitate. He confirmed that Sheila had never attended any college. Everyone stood in stunned silence. Then Jack turned back to Sheila and asked, loud enough for everyone to hear, how she could lie about something so important and how humiliating it was to find out in front of a room full of people. Some of their coworkers had their jaws practically on the floor. Watching the drama unfold in real time, Jack didn't hold back. He told Sheila that if she could lie about something as major as a fake college degree, then there was no telling what else she might have lied about. He admitted he didn't know what to believe anymore. Long story short, the engagement party ended in complete disaster. Sheila was humiliated in front of everyone. In the end, Jack left the party with his family, telling her that he needed some time and distance. After that, the event completely fell apart. Guests kept glancing at Sheila, who looked shaken and embarrassed. Even her coworkers slipped out not long after Jack's exit. To make matters worse, her manager had also attended the party. I honestly have no idea what will happen to her job. Now, Sheila suspects that one of our relatives, maybe a cousin, or even me, might have told Jack the truth, but she doesn't have any proof. In the note I gave Jack, I had specifically asked him not to reveal that I was the one who told him everything. I'm grateful he respected that and never said a word about it. Our parents told Sheila once again that this entire mess was her own doing. They had urged her from the beginning to be honest with Jack, but she chose not to. I'll post another update if Sheila and Jack decide to get back together or not. Well, as many of you predicted, Jack officially called off the wedding. He asked Sheila to return the engagement ring as it had belonged to his mother and was a family heirloom. He also told her to move out of their home, has cut off all communication with her since, to this day. He still hasn't told her who revealed the truth And for those of you who keep saying, I should confess to Sheila about the note, I won't. Let me be very clear. I never lied to anyone. You can judge me if you want. But I did absolutely nothing wrong. I simply revealed the truth. What Jack chose to do with that information was his decision. If I admit to Sheila that I was the one who told him, she aimed all her anger, shame, and resentment directly at Milan. I am not inviting that kind of chaos and abuse back into my life. I can only hope this breakup will finally be the wake-up call she needs. And maybe, just maybe, help her grow into a better person someday.